Hey y'all, hope you're doing well. My name is Dave. I'm a senior in the class of 2021 at Walter Johnson High School in North Bethesda, Maryland. And today I'm going to be talking about Maryland's Board of Public Works, which is in many ways the strangest government body anywhere in the country. Um, so what on earth is a Board of Public Works? So it's a three-member board, um, and it's responsible for the expenditure of all capital appropriations and superintendents of nearly all state public works projects. So what that means is they deal with like giving out our money and overseeing said spending for all of our like infrastructure. So if we're going to build a bridge, if we want to build a school, if we want to build a highway, it's they who have to vote on whether or not we want to do it and how we want to go about it, and they have to oversee it. So this is a unique body. No other state and federal anywhere in the country, no other state or federal government have anything like this. It's very unique. So it has three members. Obviously, it's the governor, who's our chief executive officer. It's the comptroller, who's our chief financial officer, and it's our treasurer, who's the one who actually takes care of the money. I'll explain more about those in a sec. And it takes its ultimate authority from the Maryland State Constitution, which technically says it only has the power and duties that are delegated to it through the statutes and laws of the General Assembly. But because there's so much precedent built in, the General Assembly is not likely to take any of its power away. And so it's going to remain a very powerful entity. And it's supposed to ensure fiscal responsibility and check the General Assembly's power. And so one of their very clear things is they're supposed to, ensure that money's being spent in a transparent and safe and responsible way. And generally this inflates the power of the executive a lot, because it takes a lot of spending power away from the legislature if the executive branch is what has to handle all of our capital spending. Okay, so who's on it? So the governor, obviously, you can see more about that in my video about the executive, but he's the chief executive officer of the state, is responsible for ensuring all laws are faithfully executed, is the commander in chief of the state military forces, passes and vetoes laws and makes appointments, elected statewide every 4 years, in gubernatorial years, or what we call them, which are even numbered years without a presidential election. So 2022, 2026, can't serve more than 2 consecutive terms, but if you've served 2 and then you take 1 off, you can come back. They have to be at least 30 years old. And they have to be a resident and a registered voter of Maryland for 5 years before the election. So then the comptroller. What on earth is a comptroller? So it's the chief financial officer for the state of Maryland. They are elected statewide to 4-year terms in the same years as we have all of our other state elections, gubernatorial years, 2022. There are no listed requirements for how you have to be. You have to be a registered voter. You have to be, 18 years old, qualified, citizenship status is all there, resident here, whatnot. But there aren't like specific things. You don't have to be particularly old. You don't have to be particularly qualified. And so the broad mandate in the Constitution for their job is that they exercise general superintendence of the fiscal affairs of the states. So what this means is all checks that the state treasurer puts out, they have to countersign. They create rules for displaying all evidence of our state debt, as well as, making sure we have financial transparency. Their office is supposed to audit taxpayers, handle, crimes related to tax collection. They enforce a couple of other laws. They publicize everybody's forgotten bank accounts, insurance benefits, and unclaimed assets. And they're most importantly, Maryland's chief accountant. So they pay bills, they pay state employees, they maintain the books, they prepare financial reports. They're supposed to, ensure tax dollars are spent transparently, fairly, efficiently, and responsibly. And so a similar role like this exists in some state in about 18 other states. So it's not a big widespread thing, but it's certainly not unique to Maryland either. And it's a very powerful role because it is elected statewide. It's often a stepping stone to, being a governor, being a lieutenant governor. It's probably the most powerful role in the state behind the governor. If you at least in executive roles. And then the treasurer. So they're the custodian of the state's money. They take care of our money. They get elected by a joint ballot of both chambers of the general legislature. So all the people come together on one ballot and they vote for who they want to be the treasurer. They're elected for 4-year terms. It'll happen, right after the new members come in. Again, no other qualifications are listed. They have to be a registered voter and, 18, all that. So they're responsible for managing and investing our cash deposits, bond sale revenue, and all their securities and collateral. So our money. That's a bunch of words that say our money. They brief the General Assembly on all matters that concern the state treasury. They prepare an annual financial report to provide to the General Assembly, governor, and the public with information about the operations of their office, and they handle all of the state's money. So the comptroller spends the money, the treasurer keeps track of the money. And so the Board of Public Works as a whole. So they're responsible for the expenditure of all capital appropriations and superintendents of nearly all state public works projects. What does that mean? They spend the money on our infrastructure, and then they watch and make sure it's going right. The board works to both protect and improve our fiscal integrity, or making sure our big expenditures are necessary and appropriate, fiscally responsible, fair, and lawful. So basically, that's a bunch more words that say we're taking care of our money, we're using it properly, and we're using it legally. They also want to ensure executive decisions are made responsibly and responsively. So, we're checking the power of the governor a little bit, as well as checking the power of the legislature. We're making sure that we're being smart. We're using a few different people to look at all of our spending, to check on the power of the General Assembly, like I said. So they handle hundreds of millions of dollars every single year. They spend a lot of money. They have a lot of power here. They have the authority to borrow money and provide supplemental funding for state agencies. And they can sell the state's interest in all works of internal improvement and any banking operation. So really, like, all of our money that's not going towards like paying employees, all of our money that's going towards like building things and like repairing things, that is the Board of Public Works responsibility. These three people are controlling all of that. So it's a very, very powerful body here. And so some of their more specific duties, off their website, which I'm not going to read all of these, but they make sure they approve expenditure of all of our money, especially capital improvements and our bond funds. They deal with selling or leasing our state property. They approve most of our contracts. They preserve nature. They vet state vendors before we let them enter into contracts with us. They buy land. They sell land. They run a bunch of operations of the state government when the General Assembly is out. So the governor can't quite run the show by themselves, although they generally do a lot of it. They can set tolls on roads. They report to the General Assembly, and they can request legislation from the Assembly. They are legally required to meet once every 3 months, but they usually do that more than that. They usually once every 2 to 3 weeks on Wednesdays. Nobody gets any extra money for this job, but they still have to do it. It's in the Constitution. They don't have a choice. They are going to be on this. They have to have a quorum when they meet with at least two of them have to be competent to act, which is going to mean like, they're not sick, they're not injured, they're not in the hospital, they're not dying. There are some weird checks in the Constitution and in the laws on their power. Like, they can't do anything permanent with state-owned outdoor land without the permission of the General Assembly. Lots of weird things like that. If you want to go digging through legal code, feel free. There's a couple links at the end of this. And though they technically don't have powers outside of what the Assembly guarantees them, according to the Constitution, they've been given a lot of power. And so there is this precedent of, a very powerful Board of Public Works, and it'd be very hard to get legislation approved and passed that would overturn that. So I always like to send you off with a map. So here's our fun one for today. It's, does my state have a Board of Public Works? And if you don't live in Maryland, then the answer is no. So thanks y'all for watching. I hope this made sense, even though the Board of Public Works itself does not. Stick around in this playlist. There's a bunch more videos about Maryland's government as well as Montgomery County's government. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email, davetalkslocalpolitics@gmail.com. I'll try to get back to you. For now, thanks for watching and have a great day.